What has this series become? When the first 2 episodes of The War Between the Land and the Sea aired, I felt a little bit disappointed because I had an idea in my head of what the series was going to be like, and it completely wasn't that. It was a switch, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And that led me to feel a little bit underwhelmed by it, but I still enjoyed the first 2 episodes. Last night, I sat and watched episode 3 and 4 when they aired on BBC iPlayer, and I must admit, I wasn't that impressed. But then I came to Twitter, and I'm the one who's on my own. Everybody loved it. Good for you. I'm glad you liked it, but I didn't. And I think part of the reason for this was because, like I say, I had an idea in my head of how it was going to run, and it didn't run like that. Because I love Children of Earth, and I love the idea of having a 5-part serialized spin-off. I love that idea. I love spin-offs. I think they're great, and I love the Sea Devils. But this just felt wrong. And I've seen Torchwood. There's a lot of sex in Torchwood. There's a literal sex monster in episode 2 of Torchwood. But this felt like it was overstepping that. I'll go through the episode and label off things that I liked and stuff I didn't like. I did like at the beginning of episode 3, we got to see Barclay training for the deep dive into the ocean to see the Sea Devil lair. I thought that was very cool. I thought maybe in the next scene when Barclay's kid, Kirby, they seem to be a bit agitated, and it seemed a bit over the top, a bit OTT, and a bit like it was unrealistic. I sort of broke my connection to the world that this is based on. Sort of broke at that moment because I sort of viewed them as an actor rather than a character, because I don't think anybody would act that way. Maybe I think they would have the thoughts that Kirby had, but I think maybe Pete McTighe didn't properly write it in a way that felt realistic, especially to me. And everyone gets in this little shuttle to get dropped down to the Sea Devil lair, and I did like this scene because it gives you a lot of backstory on the characters. The pacing was very slow. I got immediate bad vibes from Ted, who was the guy who had the bomb, and I watched it with my mum and dad, and my mum turned to me and went like, "That's a bomb," as soon as he pulled out that globe thing. And I did get immediate bad vibes from him, and I knew, okay, well maybe this is going to be some sort of bomb, and he's going to sabotage the sea, and then there's going to be a big war, which there still is yet to be a massive war, and we're on the final episode. So, But no, I did like the scene where everybody spoke about their lives. I do think it could have been paced up a bit. I did actually say yesterday on Twitter, I felt this series would have been better if it was 4 parts instead of 5, and they were all an hour, or like 75 minutes or something. I think that could have benefited us more, because then we could have merged these 2 episodes together, episodes 3 and 4, we could have merged them together, and we could have cut down, because I feel like that scene was there, yeah, it was there to build characters, but it was also there to fill the runtime of 45 minutes, whereas if we knew there was more happening, you could have chopped that down, probably halved it, and I would have been more happy, and we could have still had more going on. And yeah, I feel like it would have been better to merge these 2 episodes together and do a 4-parter. Obviously I haven't seen the finale yet. The finale could be really rushed, and then we'd need more time to focus on it, like it has been the case with Doctor Who over the past few years. But I think off of what I've seen so far, a 4-parter would have worked better. Kate went to one of the meetings with is it the corporation or the I've forgotten what they're called, apologies, correct me in the comments, but Kate went to one of the meetings, and she ate. Do people still say ate? Is that one of the things that the kids say these days? She ate it up, sister. She, they were all saying how they wanted to declare war. You know, if Homo Aqua want a war between the land and the sea, we'll pick the sea. Yeah, I think they were obviously wanting to launch an attack on Aqua kind, which they actually did in episode 4 with the AI or deepfake version of Salt, which I thought was a very cool and interesting thing to implement into the episode, but I'll get to that tomorrow for my episode 4 review. And I feel like that meeting with Kate felt like it was trying to be Children of Earth. You know, in Children of Earth, I think it's episode 3 or 4, is literally the entire time just a government meeting. That was done really well. This was done well too. Obviously it wasn't a full episode. When I was watching it, there's something about the gritty vibe of 2009 Torchwood with Children of Earth, and I do think it's to do with the overexposure of lights. Now I can't talk, I'm in a room that's completely overexposed with lights, but I'm not making television, I'm making a review, so it's good for me to be well lit all the time. But when you're making television, you need to make the lighting and the vibe of what we're watching fit what's happening on the screen. And in recent times, especially with Doctor Who in recent times, because of the Disney deal, and Disney have certain ways of doing things, everything is so well lit all the time that it just feels like you're watching a stage play, or you're watching like a short film made by kids. You know what I mean? I wish they captured the gritty vibe of that meeting more, because all the lights were on. All the lights were on, and everyone's face was lit up. So when they were talking about all these serious things, it didn't feel like it properly fit. You know what I mean? It felt like, I'll tell you exactly what it felt like. Children of Earth's office meeting for the government felt like the In-Betweeners, okay? It felt like the In-Betweeners or This Country, right? Two great BBC sitcoms set in England. Then you've got, the In-Betweeners is Channel 4, but who cares? That's what that Children of Earth office scene was like. Then you cut to the War Betweens office scene, and it felt like when America tried to do the In-Betweeners, and America tried to do This Country, and it just did not translate, and it didn't look good, and it didn't feel right. Something felt off, and it felt like they were just trying to do Children of Earth again. It's very clear to me that this took inspiration from Children of Earth. The fact they used the same building is a big part of it, and I think, you know, we'll get to the big death in a bit, but that felt very, you know, Yanto. So it felt like they were just trying to do Children of Earth, but not as good. It didn't translate as well, but it wasn't terrible. I did enjoy it. Kate and Ibrahim have some really good chemistry this episode. It definitely redeems itself from last week's weird sexy scene, which was a bit but this time, you know, you get to see Colonel Ibrahim, you know, giving her advice to go home. You know, you're overtired. You've slept 6 hours in 3 days. You need to sleep, Kate. Go home. Go and rest. That's what I like from him. I'd rather see him give her, you know, he's there for her. And, you know, if he can give her words of advice like, go home, you're too tired, or here's a coffee, here's da-da-da, I'm here for you, Kate, I love you, Kate, fine. All the kissy was weird. It was weird. I didn't like it. I've changed my mind completely from last week. I thought it was grim. This episode completely redeemed them, and I was really starting to get a sense of their relationship, and I wanted more from it. And then Barclay and the team, you know, General Pierce and Ted and all those guys, they arrive at the bottom of the seabed where Salt greets them, and it's Aquakind's big base, which I did think was a hint to the, what's it called? The Mara? No, not the Mara, the Macra either. Micra, that's it, the Micra, that's what I'm thinking of. I thought maybe the Micra would be involved, and they were inside the Micra. They weren't, unfortunately. Well, maybe fortunately, considering the last time the Micra came up, the show got cancelled. And from what I've seen on Twitter, if it's true, this underwater base was actually the Bone Palace from Wishworld and the Reality War, just repainted to look like Under the Sea. And I thought it looked very good. I did. I liked it. I thought this series has looked very good. That's something I can't floor it on. It looks good. There's sometimes, like I say, with the whole office scene earlier, where it could match, the looks of it could match the vibe of what's being spoken more. But it doesn't look bad. It just doesn't. I'd prefer to have a dimly lit office scene when they're talking about dark stuff to fit the vibe, rather than a perfectly lit office. But that doesn't say the perfectly lit office just looks bad. I think it looks good. I just think it would be better to match the scene with the lighting. That's personally what I think. We saw OG Sea Devils, which I'm a big fan of. As you know, I love the Sea Devils. I have done since I was a kid. And I think it was cool to see the OG Sea Devils design. I was personally on the side of the new Sea Devil design is bad. I prefer the old ones. Since this has come out, I will admit, the new ones do look better. They look more horrifying and they look darker. That's something else I mentioned my last two reviews. This episode, or this series as a whole, hasn't felt as dark as I hoped it would be. That's part of the reason why I felt a bit disappointed with it, because it's not felt as dark and gritty as I hoped it would be. And part of that, I suppose, is up to me, making my mind up on the fact this is going to be a dark series, and it wasn't. But that first trailer they released, you've got to admit, it looks a lot darker than it actually turned out to be. Maybe it's just me. We then see Salt and Barclay's relationship start to take a bit more of a raunchy approach when, you know, can I touch your face and stuff like that. And, like, I did say to my family, like, you know, maybe it's not a sexual thing, and maybe he just does want to feel what her face feels like. Because I'm not going to lie, the first time I saw Salt, I thought, I want to know what, you know, is it fish skin? Is it human skin? Is it neither? Is it something else? So I would have done that, but then it's very clear, you know, from jokes made later on, that Barclay wanted to touch Salt. He didn't just want to touch the face of a fish woman to see what it felt like. He wanted to touch Salt. It's a weird TV show. It's so weird, honestly. I feel weird talking about it. And I've seen all of Torchwood, and I've spoken about a lot of Torchwood. I think they could have done Salt and Barclay a lot better. I was never opposed, you know, in the first episode, I watched this with my parents, and they were saying something like, "Oh, I think there's a romance building between these two characters," and I said, "Yeah, I bet there probably is. I bet my bottom dollar that there is." But they were against it. I was a bit for it. I was like, I'm interested to see how they do this, and I had an idea in my head of how they'd do this romance in a way that felt real and felt like we'd do it if we were in the same position. Only issue is they haven't done that for me. They haven't lived up to a good enough reason why Barkley would want to go with Salt. Do you know what I mean? Is that just a me problem? I feel like a lot of people are liking it online. I'm not against the relationship. I just think there's better ways to make them come together. Have them come together for a reason rather than just physical attraction. I think if there'd have been a plot reason why they needed to be, or like if there was a thing where it's like, right, both ambassadors need to go into a room on their own and talk it out, and in there we then learn, you know, the tension gets raised through there and the romantic chemistry builds through there, would have worked a lot better than just, you know, I fancy you, you're sexy fish lady, come here, give me a kiss. You know what I mean? That to me doesn't satisfy what I wanted from this show. And then obviously Ted's bomb goes off. He's like offers them a gift, which is weird. You wouldn't offer, surely they should have seen this as a red flag. You wouldn't offer the Sea Devils a gift after they've just flooded your entire planet with pollution. You know, you wouldn't offer them a gift. But maybe they thought it was a peace treaty thing, I suppose. But actually the globe turns out to be a bomb. And Barkley, being the hero, knocks Ted to the ground. The bomb flies off into Sea Devil lair and it explodes. And you think that's the cliffhanger. But what actually happens is we cut to Kate's flat. And we see Kate and Colonel Ibrahim, and they're having a chat. And Ibrahim is saying, you know, you're always switched on to be Commander-in-Chief of unit. You're never just with me. When can I just have a chat with Kate? I don't want to have a chat with the Commander-in-Chief of the Unified Intelligence Task Force. I want to have a chat with Kate. And Kate sort of brushes it off and is like, oh, maybe one day, but this is important. I need to focus on this. And then Kate stood at the window. Boom. We see it, the red dot appear on her head. And I thought, oh, this is where the cliffhanger is going to be. And then the result of the cliffhanger is going to be classic Doctor Who, where she gets budged out of the way and they both survive. But no, we go a step further. It takes it full Yanto. And Colonel Ibrahim grabs Kate, pushes her out of the way, and he gets shot instead. And oh my god, this was a tense scene. I was watching it on the edge of my seat, and they purposely leave it at a point where we're not sure who's been shot, or at least I wasn't, and neither was my family. We were watching it and we didn't know if Kate had been shot, or if Ibrahim had been shot, or if he tried to stop her but it didn't work in time. It was tense, man. It was very, very tense. But again, it did definitely feel like they were trying to recreate a Yanto situation. And it wasn't as heartfelt as Yanto's death, but also for episode 3, we didn't get a full roundup of it yet. So I'm going to talk more of that on my next review. But for now, that's been my review of The War Between the Land and the Sea, episode 3, which is called The Deep. The pacing was off, characters could have been more throwaway, there could have been less characters going down there. Ted's character I thought was done really well. Kate's character I thought was done really well, and I started to care about Colonel Ibrahim and Kate's relationship. Obviously now that's irrelevant. But for now, I'm going to leave you there. I'm going to rank this episode a good... This is probably is it the weakest? On paper, it's the weakest. The least happens, but the cliffhanger's so good. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. That's my ranking for this episode. So it's not bad. It's not blown me away, but it's good. The cliffhanger was incredible, and I now take back my statement I said last time where I said Russ was like, monumental cliffhangers, and there was none. It was just Barkley going, okay. This time, it lived up for it. I liked it. 4 out of 5. Let me know your rankings for this episode and stuff that you think I've missed out on talking about, that you liked or disliked. Leave them in the comments, let me know, and I'll be back tomorrow for another episode of The War Between the Land and the Sea.